Hi class, Mrs. Matheson here, and we're going to be starting our Unit 3, Notes 1 today on classifying triangles. Our learning targets today is I can name and classify triangles, and I can use properties of triangles to solve for missing angles. Now we're going to learn to name and classify triangles two different ways. But let's first just talk about, naming this triangle. This triangle here has a vertice or a corner of A, B, and C. So we're going to name this triangle A, B, C. Just like when we talked about angles and sides and rays, they all had a little diagram thing that went with them. That's the same thing here with our little triangle here to represent that this is a triangle. All right, our sides. We have side AB, and these are segments, so we need to remember that on the top. We have side BC, and we also have side AC. Now, you could have written BA, CB, CA, and just changed the order of the letters, and it still is going to represent the same sides. We also have angles. We have this angle here. Remember, we name angles by 3 letters, so we can say BAC, or we can call it just by the 1 letter if it's obvious, like here it's obvious that that's angle A. Okay, let's look at our next one. We could have ABC, and there our B is our vertex. So we could also name it by the vertex. And then last, we have BCA. And there we could also name it angle C, because C is our vertex. Okay, so here's where I talked about we're going to classify triangles two different ways. First way we're going to classify them is by their angles. So in our first one, we have, it's an acute triangle. And this one we can classify because it has 3 acute angles. Remember, acute angles are anything less than 90 degrees. So less than 90 degrees because they're so cute. All right, our next type of triangle is going to be an equiangular triangle. An equiangular triangle is going to have 3 congruent acute angles. So we can mark those angles as congruent. Our next one is obtuse. And it has 1 obtuse angle. And our last one here, in your diagram, you'll notice you have that little square in the corner, so that makes this a right triangle because it has 1 right angle. All right, so there's our 4 types of triangles classified by angles. All right, so now let's talk about the triangle sum theorem. It says the sum of the measures of the angles of a triangle is, well, we've talked about this before, and I'm sure you've heard this before, 180 degrees. So let's use that here to help us find our missing angle in this next example. So we're going to name this triangle. So we're going to triangle, let's just make it BAC. Any those 3 letters in any order is just fine. Classification of this triangle. Well, we have an angle that's 25 degrees. We have an unknown angle, and we have an angle that's 100 degrees. That angle that's 100 degrees tells us that this one is obtuse. Let's find that missing angle. Well, we're going to use the theorem that says, hey, all 3 of those angles add up to 180. So if we take 180 and minus out the 100 and the 25 we know, we're going to find that x. So 180 minus 100 minus 25, that ends with x is 55. So that angle is 55 degrees. Triangle sum corollaries. Here's another one of those theorems that we're going to look at. It says the acute angles of a right triangle are complementary. Remember, complementary is 2 angles that add up, not equals to, let's say that again, that add up to 90 degrees. Remember, it's not 2 90-degree angles, it's 2 angles that make 90 degrees. So triangle ABC has a measure of 180, which we know from our triangle sum theorem. If the measure of angle C is 90 degrees, well, let's think about this. If we subtract that out, that's going to tell us what angle A plus angle B is. Well, 180 minus 90 is going to be 90 degrees. All right, so let's put some of this to use. We have a diagram here, and I see 3 different triangles. And also remember that our triangles are not always to scale. Okay, this one has 2 right angles, a 40-degree angle, and a 65-degree angle. So what type of triangle is DGK? DGK. Well, we can classify this one without even knowing what that third angle is because it has a right angle in the corner, so that makes this one a right triangle. Okay, the next one asks us for triangle GKF. GKF. Okay, well, we see we have an acute angle there, and so this one is going to be acute. All right, so let's actually find some of these missing measurements that we have. Find the measure of angle DGK. DGK. So we're going to find this one here. Well, this one's a simple one for us to do. We're going to take our 180 that our triangle adds up to. We're going to minus out the 90 we know. We're going to minus out the 40 we know. And that ends up with 50 degrees. And we want to label this one with degrees because we know that we're talking about an angle here. All right, find the measure of EKF. EKF. So we're going to find this one. Well, if I look here, these 3 angles all make a straight line. They are going to add up to 180 then. So if we take 180 and we minus out our two known angles, 40 and 65, that's going to get us a measurement of 75 degrees. Okay, so let's just fill in those 2 angles that we know. This one's 50 and this one's 75. Okay, next one says find the measure of KGF. Ooh, KGF. So we're looking for this angle here for KGF. And then the next one, number 6 says find the measure KFG. So KFG is going to be this one. So I'm actually going to ask you to do these 2 on your own for our next class, and you're going to be able to use your information that you know to find those. Okay, so here we go. It says find the measure of angle 1, measure of angle 2, and measure of angle 3. And I'm actually going to leave all 3 of these for you guys to find. Now you want to think back to your vertical angles relationship. You want to think back to any other angle relationships that might appear again in triangles. Okay, so we're going to touch base here on our exterior angle theorem. This one is a really important theorem, and a lot of kids seem to understand it at first, but then lose it. So pay really close attention. It says the measure of an exterior angle of a triangle. So remember exterior, that's going to tell us that this is outside, is equal to the sum of the measures of the 2 remote interior angles. So remote, that's going to tell us that these ones are going to be farther away and inside. Okay, so that's saying here that angle A and angle B, those are our remote interior angles. And angle 1, that's our exterior angle. Okay, angle A plus angle B is going to add up to the measure of angle 1. So those 2 inside angles add up to the measure of angle 1. And the other thing that we know is, look here, angle C, let's talk that this is angle C. Angle C and angle 1, those 2 add up to a straight line. So they add up to 180 degrees. So let's just do this last problem here before we go. Find the measure of find the value of x and then find the measure of angle S and B. All right, so these 2 here are interior angles, and then here's our exterior one. So we're going to add our 2 interior angles, and they're going to equal our exterior angle. So if we solve this for x minus x, 50 equals x minus 15. Oh, where'd you go, smartboard? Minus 15, there we go. All right, we want to add 15 over. So we get x equals 65. Now, you have to find a measure of angle SNB. SNB is this one here. And I want you guys to find the measure of angle SNB for me. And don't forget to go on and take your Schoology quiz. And we will see you guys in class.